I coordinate corporate retreats for a living, mostly tech companies wanting team-building exercises in exotic locations. The Phoenix Biodome was supposed to be my easiest gig in months. Premium client, controlled environment, 15 guests maximum. Dominic Harrow, the billionaire who built the place, promised an experience showcasing humanity's climate future. I should have asked more questions about what that meant. The dome sits 40 miles into the Sonoran Desert, accessible only by the private road Harrow's company bulldozed through protected land 3 years ago. Bureau of Land Management fought it, lost in court. Local Tano O'odham Nation protested. I read about it in the Arizona Republic back when I was planning logistics. Harrow donated $2 million to some tribal scholarship fund and the protests quieted down. That's how it works with these people. Money makes problems disappear. I've been doing this job for 8 years, ever since my marriage ended, and I needed something that kept me moving. My daughter Luz is 16 now, living with her dad in Tucson. She's supposed to visit me in Phoenix this weekend. First time in 3 months because Ramon's been playing games with the custody schedule again. I checked my phone 14 times during the 2-hour drive out here, making sure she hadn't canceled. The last text came through at 9:47 a.m. Dad says I can come. Pick me up Saturday at noon. Don't be late this time, Mom. This time, like I'm the one who's been flaking. The biodome is beautiful. I'll give Harrow that. It's a geodesic structure, maybe 200 feet in diameter, constructed from triple-layer glass panels that shimmer in the desert sun. The panels are tinted, some kind of smart glass technology that adjusts to the heat. Inside, there's a manufactured ecosystem. Tropical plant from 6 continents, a miniature rainforest canopy, a stream system with recirculating water pumps humming beneath artificial stones. The air smells green, impossibly green for the middle of the desert, like breathing inside a terrarium. Ms. Delgado, welcome. Harrow himself met me at the entrance airlock. And yes, it's an actual airlock with pressure seals and everything. He's younger than I expected from his Forbes profile photos. Maybe 35, wearing expensive hiking gear that's never seen actual dirt. REI tags still visible on the jacket cuffs. You're early. Excellent. Efficiency is a virtue I admire. Traffic was lighter than expected, I said, which wasn't exactly true. I always arrive early because I hate surprises, and these tech people are always changing requirements at the last minute. I wanted to do a final walkthrough before guests arrive. Make sure the catering station is properly set up. Check the presentation equipment. Already handled by my staff, Harrow interrupted, which annoyed me because that's my job, not his staff's job. But I smiled anyway because he's paying me $12,000 for 3 days of work. I want to show you something more important. The atmospheric processing system. He led me deeper into the dome. The temperature inside was perfect, exactly 72 degrees despite the desert heat baking the glass above us. The plants were arranged in careful biomes, succulents giving way to ferns giving way to something that looked like bamboo but wasn't quite right. The leaves were too glossy, too uniform. We're running a pilot program, Harrow said, walking along a metal catwalk suspended above the plant beds. Below us, mist sprayers activated on timers, coating the foliage in fine droplets. Atmospheric microbes designed to accelerate carbon sequestration. They live in the moisture, in the plant tissue, in the air itself. Invisible carbon capture technology. That's fascinating, I said, which is what you say when rich people explain their projects. Even though what I was actually thinking was, where are the fire exits? I counted only 2, both leading back through the main airlock. The windows didn't open. Of course they didn't. It's a sealed environment. But something about that made my skin itch. The microbes are engineered to be symbiotic with plant life, Harrow continued. He was talking faster now, the way people do when they're excited about something they've invested millions in. They bond with chlorophyll structures, enhance photosynthesis efficiency by 38%. Imagine deploying this globally, reversing climate change through biological engineering rather than failed carbon taxes and useless international agreements. I made appropriate impressed noises while checking my watch. Guests arriving at 1 p.m. I still needed to verify the sleeping quarters, make sure the bathrooms were properly stocked, confirm the dinner menu with the catering team that was supposed to be setting up in the kitchen module attached to the dome's north side. That's when the wind started. At first, it was just a low whistle outside the glass panels. Harrow paused mid-sentence about photosynthesis rates, frowning. "That's early," he said. "What's early?" "Weather Service said the storm wouldn't hit until tonight." He pulled out his phone, one of those new satellite models that works anywhere. "We're getting 40-mile-per-hour gusts already. It's going to be a bad one." I felt my stomach drop. "Should we postpone? I can contact the guests, reschedule for next month." "No need," Harrow said, waving dismissively. "That's the beauty of the dome. Completely sealed environment. The storm could drop a F5 tornado on us, and we wouldn't feel it. Actually, it'll make the experience more dramatic. Guests watching the chaos outside while enjoying perfect climate control inside. Great metaphor for what we're building here." The wind picked up while we stood there. Sand began hitting the glass panels with a sound like radio static. Within minutes, visibility outside dropped to near zero, just a brown wall of desert dust swirling around the dome. The smart glass adjusted automatically, tinting darker to compensate for the loss of light. Interior LED strips activated, casting everything in a strange, artificial glow. My phone buzzed. Text from Ramon. "Storm's hitting Tucson too. Luz is staying with me this weekend. Too dangerous for her to travel." I stared at the message. Of course he'd used the weather as an excuse. I typed back. "The forecast shows clearing by Friday night. I can pick her up Saturday morning instead of noon." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, let's just play it by ear. Which meant no. Which meant another weekend canceled. Which meant Luz was going to think I didn't care enough to fight for our time together. Even though I've been fighting for 3 years and Ramon has money for better lawyers and I'm the one who left the marriage, so somehow that makes me the bad parent. "Ms. Delgado." Harrow was looking at me. "Are you all right?" "Fine," I said, putting my phone away. Professional smile back in place. "Just confirming some personal logistics." "So, the guests, they're all arriving by 1 p.m.? "They should already be here," Harrow said, checking his own phone with a frown. The shuttle van left Phoenix at 9:30. "There!" He trailed off, tapping his screen. "They're stuck, 20 miles out. Driver says the road's already impassable. So we postpone," I said again, relief washing through me. "I'll coordinate new travel dates." "They're continuing on foot," Harrow interrupted. "I've sent our emergency response vehicle to collect them. They'll be here within the hour. In this storm, Ms. Delgado, I'm paying these people $50,000 each for this experience. We're not postponing." The lights flickered. Just once, barely noticeable. But I noticed. The hum of the air circulation system stuttered, then resumed at a slightly different pitch. Outside, the storm was getting worse. The sand hitting the glass sounded like someone throwing handfuls of gravel at the windows. Harrow was typing rapidly on his phone. Pressurization system is compensating for the external atmospheric changes. All automated. Nothing to worry about. But he was frowning at his screen like there was definitely something to worry about. That's when I saw the first one. A moth. No, not a moth. Too big. Wrong color. It was crawling along the inside of the glass panels, moving in short, jerky bursts. Its wings were translucent, veined with patterns that looked almost digital, like circuit boards printed on tissue paper. "Mr. Harrow," I said slowly. "What is that?" He glanced up, saw what I was looking at, and his expression went carefully neutral. "Ah, yes. Those are part of the microbe dispersal system. They carry the atmosphere processors to different sections of the dome. Biomechanical vectors. Completely harmless. The thing stopped crawling. Its wings vibrated, releasing a cloud of something into the air. A fine mist that caught the LED light and glittered as it settled over the nearest plants. "Harmless," I repeated. "Completely," Harrow said. But he was already walking toward a control panel built into the catwalk railing, typing in commands. Though I should probably suppress the vector population before guests arrive. They could be visually unsettling to people unfamiliar with the technology. The air smelled different suddenly. Still green, but with something else underneath. Something chemical. Something that reminded me of the time Luz got pneumonia when she was 7 and the hospital nebulizer pumped medicine into her lungs. That weird sweet bitter smell of pharmaceutical mist. Outside, the storm screamed against the glass. Inside, more of the knot moths were emerging from vents in the ceiling, their translucent wings catching the light as they began to spread through the manufactured paradise. And somewhere 20 miles away, 15 guests were being driven through a sandstorm toward this place. And I was the one who'd coordinated their arrival, and I should have asked more questions about what humanity's climate future actually meant. The guests arrived covered in desert dust, their expensive outdoor gear caked with sand despite the 15-minute drive from where they'd abandoned the shuttle. I met them at the airlock with warm towels and apologetic smiles, my standard greeting for when logistics go sideways. 15 tech executives, venture capitalists, and climate scientists, each paying premium prices to experience Harrow's vision of engineered paradise. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Phoenix Biodome, I said, doing my best to sound cheerful despite the storm howling outside and the weird knot moths I kept seeing in my peripheral vision. I apologize for the rough journey. We've prepared refreshments in the main pavilion, and your sleeping quarters have been set up in the residential module. Mr. Harrow will be conducting the facility tour at 3 p.m. This is incredible, one of them said, a woman in her 40s wearing a Stanford Climate Lab windbreaker. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, according to my guest list. The atmospheric pressure differential between here and outside must be significant. 4.2 pounds per square inch, Harrow said, appearing from the catwalk system above us. He loved making dramatic entrances. The dome maintains optimal conditions regardless of external environment. Temperature, humidity, oxygen-nitrogen ratio, even pollen count. Complete atmospheric control. I was supposed to be listening to this, taking mental notes in case guests had questions later. That's my job, being the invisible coordinator who knows where everything is and how everything works. But I was distracted by Dr. Tanaka, who kept touching her throat. Small, unconscious gesture, fingers pressing against her neck like she was checking her pulse. "Are you all right, doctor?" I asked quietly while Harrow launched into his prepared speech about carbon sequestration. She looked at me, distracted. "Oh yes, fine. Just the air in here. It tastes strange. Thicker somehow. I noticed it too. That green smell had intensified since the guest arrived, and there was something else now. Something that coated the back of my throat when I breathed. Like inhaling near a swimming pool, but without the chlorine burn. The micro-concentration," another guest said, young guy, maybe 25, introduced himself as Devin Parfors, a Bay Area investment firm. "I can actually feel it. Like the air has texture. That's the enhanced oxygen production," Harrow said smoothly. "The microbes accelerate photosynthesis, which means more O2 generation per plant. You're breathing the cleanest air on Earth right now. Better than pre-industrial atmosphere." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I checked it discreetly. Another text from Ramon. "Luz has a headache. Keeping her home from school tomorrow too. She needs rest." Luz never got headaches. She'd inherited my immune system, which is basically military grade. I started typing a response, then stopped. Ramon was baiting me, trying to provoke an argument he could screenshot and show his lawyer. Look at her, caring more about work than her daughter's health. I deleted my draft and typed, "Give her my love. Tell her to call me when she feels better." Professional, reasonable, giving him nothing to use against me. "Ms. Delgado," Harrow was looking at me expectantly. "Could you show our guests to their quarters? I need to check on the atmospheric processors. The storm is putting unusual stress on the system." "Of course," I said, slipping my phone away and gesturing for the group to follow me. "This way, please." The residential module was attached to the main dome via a clear tunnel. Walking through it with the storm raging outside was like being inside a snow globe, except the snow was sand and the shaking was real. One of the guests, an older man with a venture capital firm whose name I'd already forgotten, gripped the tunnel railing hard enough to turn his knuckles white. "Perfectly safe," I said automatically, though I wasn't sure I believed it. The glass was flexing slightly in the wind. Not much, maybe a few millimeters, but I could see it. The structure is rated for sustained winds up to 200 miles per hour. "What are we getting now?" someone asked. I checked my phone. Weather app said 73 miles per hour with gusts to 92. "Well, within safety parameters," I said, which was true, but didn't make the tunnel feel any less like it might crack open and dump us into the sandblasted desert. The sleeping quarters were small but efficient. 12 individual pods arranged in a circle around a common area. Each pod had a bed, desk, and tiny bathroom. Very Japanese capsule hotel aesthetic. The 3 scientists who didn't fit in the pods would sleep in the main dome on cots near the observation deck, which Haro had described as immersive, but which I suspected meant we ran out of space. Dr. Tanaka was still touching her throat, and now I could see why. There was something on her neck. A faint pattern, almost invisible, spreading from her collar line up toward her jaw. It looked like veins, but the wrong color, too green, too geometric. Like someone had drawn circuit board tracings on her skin in pale jade ink. "Doctor," I said, pulling her aside while the others explored their pods. "Your neck. Do you have an allergic reaction?" She touched the marks, examining her fingers afterward. I don't think so. No itching, no pain." She looked at me, and I saw fear flash across her face before she covered it with professional composure. "It must be something cosmetic. Reaction to the soap in the shuttle van. Maybe. I have sensitive skin." We both knew that wasn't true, but she was a climate scientist here to evaluate Haro's technology, and admitting something was wrong on the first day would derail the entire retreat. I understood that calculus. I'd made similar choices 100 times. Smile through the problem, fix it later, don't alarm the client. "I'll get you some antihistamine cream," I said. "We have a medical kit in the main dome." "Thank you, Ms. Delgado. Call me Pilar." I left her unpacking and headed back through the tunnel. The storm had worsened. Visibility outside was 0 now, just brown chaos pressing against the glass. My phone had lost signal somewhere in the residential module. Emergency satellite connection only, which meant no text from Luz, no way to check if she was really sick or if Ramon was just playing games again. "Focus, Pilar. Do your job. 15 guests depending on you. $12,000 for 3 days. You can deal with custody bullshit after the retreat ends." The main dome felt different when I re-entered it. The air was thicker now. Dr. Tanaka had been right about that. Each breath felt substantial, like drinking mist. And there were more of the knot moths. Dozens of them clustered around the mist sprayers and air circulation vents. Their wings moved in synchronized patterns, releasing clouds of that glittering particulate into the atmosphere. I found Haro at the central control station, staring at multiple screens displaying real-time atmospheric data I couldn't interpret. Chemical formulas, concentration percentages, biomass calculations. "Mr. Haro," I said, "one of the guests has a rash on her neck. It looks like vascular integration." He interrupted, not looking away from his screens. "It's harmless. The microbes bond with epithelial tissue to enhance gas exchange efficiency. Like gills, but for air. It'll fade once she leaves the dome." "Gills," I repeated. "You gave her gills." "No, Ms. Delgado. I enhanced her respiratory system temporarily. There's a difference." Now he did look at me, and his expression was somewhere between irritated and defensive. The consent forms everyone signed included language about exposure to experimental atmospheric treatments. This is what they paid for, to experience the cutting edge of climate technology. I pulled out my copy of the consent forms on my tablet, scrolled through the legal jargon. There it was, buried in paragraph 7. Participants acknowledge exposure to engineered biological systems and accept associated physiological adaptation responses. Associated physiological adaptation responses, I read aloud. That's very careful language. It was written by very expensive lawyers, Harrow said. Look, Pilar, may I call you Pilar? This is why we're doing the retreat here, in controlled conditions, with willing participants who understand the technology. Yes, the microbes interact with human tissue. That's the point. We need to prove the system is safe for global deployment. By giving people gills, by demonstrating symbiotic enhancement, he corrected. The microbes don't harm humans. They help us. Better oxygen absorption means better cellular function, increased mental clarity, enhanced physical performance. In 3 days, these guests will leave feeling better than they've felt in years. And marks on their skin? Cosmetic side effect. Fades in 72 hours once exposure ends. A loud bang echoed through the dome. We both jumped. One of the glass panels high in the structure had cracked. Not shattered, but fractured in a spiderweb pattern. Harrow swore and started typing rapidly on his keyboard. Pressure differential, he muttered. Storm stronger than forecast. I need to equalize before we lose structural integrity. Should we evacuate? To where, Pilar? The storm is category level severe out there. Even my emergency vehicles can't drive in this. We're safer inside. Another crack appeared. Then another. The smart glass was compensating, automatically thickening in the damaged areas, but I could hear the dome groaning under the wind pressure. Outside, something massive hit the structure. Debris, maybe a vehicle blown loose from the parking area. The entire dome shuddered. Sealing emergency protocols, Harrow said, and I heard the airlock doors clang shut throughout the facility. Heavy magnetic locks engaging with deep metallic thuds. Nobody goes in or out until the storm passes. How long? Weather Service says 8 to 12 hours. 8 to 12 hours sealed in here, with 15 guests and air that tasted wrong and not moths releasing chemicals, and a billionaire who thought giving people temporary gills was acceptable experimental procedure. My phone buzzed with an emergency alert, somehow pushing through despite the lost signal. Emergency alert. Private research compound in quarantine. Maricopa County hazmat response activated. Shelter in place. Do not attempt to leave sealed structures. I showed it to Harrow. What does this mean? His face had gone pale. It means someone reported us to the county. Probably one of the protesters. They've been trying to shut me down for months. Is there a hazard? No, he said too quickly. Just paranoid bureaucrats responding to paranoid activists. The microbes are contained. The system is stable. We're perfectly safe. But he was looking at his screens again, and I could see the readings changing. Micro concentration levels climbing. Oxygen percentage rising past 21%, past 22, approaching 23. The air in the dome was becoming hyperoxic. Dr. Tanaka appeared from the residential tunnel, and I heard myself make a small noise in my throat. The marks on her neck had spread. They covered her jaw now, creeping up toward her cheekbones. Geometric patterns in pale green, pulsing slightly. And she wasn't alone. 3 other guests were behind her, all showing similar markings. All touching their throats unconsciously. Mr. Harrow, Dr. Tanaka said calmly, like a scientist observing an experiment gone wrong. I believe we need to discuss the informed consent protocols you mentioned. Outside, the storm screamed. Inside, the air got thicker. And I thought about Luz, safe in Tucson with her father who loved using every excuse to keep her away from me, and how she'd never know what happened if this dome became a tomb in the desert. By hour 3 of quarantine, 8 of the 15 guests showed the marks. Devin Park, the investment kid, had them worst. The green tracery covered his entire neck and was spreading across his cheeks in delicate fractal patterns. He kept looking at himself in his phone camera, fascinated and terrified in equal measure. It doesn't hurt, he kept saying. It should hurt, right? Why doesn't it hurt? I'd gathered everyone in the main observation area, away from the densest clusters of knot moths. though that was becoming meaningless. The things were everywhere now. The air shimmered with their wing patterns. Every breath tasted green and chemical. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, falling back on my corporate retreat voice because what else did I have? I know this situation is concerning. Mr. Harrow is working on a solution. Mr. Harrow created the situation, Dr. Tanaka interrupted. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, breathing in measured counts. The marks on her face pulsed in rhythm with her inhalations. These microbes aren't passive carbon capture. They're invasive. They're changing us. Temporarily, Harrow insisted. He'd left the control station to face the guest directly, which I thought was brave or stupid or both. I've run this experiment a dozen times with paid volunteers. The integration is always reversible once you leave the dome environment. Your bodies will metabolize the microbes within 72 hours. You've never sealed the dome during a storm, Dr. Tanaka said. You've never had atmospheric pressure this high. You've never had micro concentrations at. She checked her portable air quality monitor for 100% of your documented baseline levels. Harrow went very still. Show me that reading. She held up the monitor. I couldn't interpret the numbers, but I could read Harrow's expression. He looked like someone watching a bridge collapse in slow motion. That's not possible, he said. The population controls should prevent exponential growth. There's a genetic limiter built into their reproduction cycle. Then your genetic limiter failed, Dr. Tanaka said, or the storm conditions triggered something you didn't plan for. Dominic, I've read your papers. I know what you're trying to build. But this, she gestured at her marked face, this is moving faster than your models predicted. My phone vibrated. I'd regained minimal signal somehow. Text from Ramon. Luz's fever is 101.4. Taking her to urgent care. Stop bothering us. I stared at it. Fever? She didn't have a fever an hour ago. She had a headache. Now, she had a fever? I called him. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I texted. What urgent care? I'm coming. Which location? Nothing. He turned off his notifications, probably, or blocked me. Again, Ms. Delgado, one of the guests, older woman, venture capitalist whose name escaped me in my panic, was touching my arm. Are you all right? My daughter, I said, then caught myself. Professional, Pilar. Professional. Family emergency, but nothing I can do from here. Please excuse me. I walked toward the bathroom module, needing 30 seconds away from 15 pairs of eyes watching me fail to manage this situation. But Harrow followed me, catching my elbow. Pilar, I need you focused, he said quietly. I know this is bad. I know I fucked up. But these people need to see calm leadership or they'll panic. And panic in a sealed environment is how people die. People might die anyway, I said. How long do we have before the microbe concentration becomes, what, toxic? It's not toxic, he insisted. It's just faster than planned. The integration process should take days, not hours. But the end result is the same. Enhanced respiratory function, better cellular oxygenation. Dominic, I used his first name deliberately. What happens if someone's body rejects the integration? He didn't answer immediately. That was answer enough. You don't know, I said. I've never seen rejection in trials, he said. The microbes are designed to be universally compatible. They bond with chlorophyll in plants and hemoglobin in humans through similar molecular mechanisms. But you don't know what happens if someone's hemoglobin is wrong. Sickle cell, anemia, blood disorders. We screen for major conditions in the medical questionnaires. Which people lie on, I said, because they want the experience, because they're embarrassed, because they don't think it matters. Devin Park started coughing, not distress coughing, more like he was trying to clear something from his lungs. But it went on, and on, wet, harsh sounds that echoed in the dome's carefully engineered acoustics. Dr. Tanaka reached him first, professional instincts overriding her own marked face. Devin, breathe through your nose. Slow. Count of 4 in, count of 4 out. But he couldn't. He was gasping now, hands at his throat, and I saw why. The green marks were inside his mouth, spreading across his tongue, his palate, down into his throat, geometric patterns visible when he opened wide to gasp for air. It's adapting his respiratory tract, Harrow said, rushing over with a medical kit. Give him time. His body is learning to process the enhanced oxygen levels. He's suffocating, Dr. Tanaka snapped. Whatever those things are doing to his lungs, it's not helping him breathe better. I grabbed the medical kit from Harrow, found the emergency oxygen mask, standard equipment for any remote facility, pressed it over Devin's face and cranked the flow. He sucked it desperately. That won't help, Harrow said. The oxygen concentration is already too high. Adding more will. Devin's gasping eased. Not stopped, but eased. He sagged against Dr. Tanaka, breathing in ragged but functional gulps. Why did that work? I asked. I don't know, Harrow admitted. Maybe the pure O2 overwhelms the microbe's integration signals. Maybe it's psychological. Maybe. How many oxygen masks do we have? Dr. Tanaka interrupted. I checked the kit. 3. Plus the main emergency tank can supply 2 more portable units if we cannibalize parts. 5 masks for 15 people, she said. For 8 to 12 hours minimum until the storm passes. She looked at me. You're the coordinator. How do we decide who gets them? And there it was. The question I'd been avoiding since the quarantine started. Because I had known since Devin started showing marks worse than anyone else, that we couldn't save everyone equally. That someone was going to have to make decisions about who got resources and who had to wait and hope their body adapted before the microbes finished transforming their respiratory system into something new. Medical triage, I said automatically. Worst affected get priority. That's 5 people right now, Dr. Tanaka said. What about in 2 hours? What about when it's 10 people? 12? I don't know, I said. You need to know, she insisted. Because I'm a climate scientist, not a medical doctor. Harrow created this mess, but he's too invested in believing his technology is benign. You're the only person here whose job is taking care of people. So you need to decide, right now, what the protocol is. I looked at the other guests. Some were watching us. Some were examining their own skin for marks. Some were checking their phones obsessively, looking for signal that wouldn't come. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. This is County Hazmat Response. We've received reports of experimental biological release at Phoenix Biodome. Do not attempt to exit structure. Aerial sterilization protocols may be deployed. Respond to confirm receipt. I showed it to Harrow. Aerial sterilization? His face went gray. They're going to spray the dome. Probably chlorine gas or something to kill the microbes. They don't know we're sealed in here with people. They know, I said. They said do not exit. They know there are people inside. Then they're going to sterilize anyway, he said. Because the alternative is letting an unknown engineered organism escape into the desert ecosystem. They'll sacrifice us to contain it. Dr. Tanaka had been listening. How long do we have? I don't know, Harrow said. Could be hours. Could be days. Depends on how fast they can mobilize resources. But when they do, he gestured at the cracked glass panels above us. This dome isn't airtight anymore. Whatever they spray will seep in. And if they're using military-grade sterilization chemicals. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. I looked at the oxygen masks. 5 of them. Maybe enough to keep 5 people breathing through a chemical attack if we ration carefully. Maybe not even that. We need to evacuate, someone said. The venture capitalist whose name I still couldn't remember. Call them. Tell them we're coming out. They have to let us leave before they spray. They won't, Dr. Tanaka said. We're contaminated. We're vectors. They'll quarantine us in hazmat tents for weeks. Maybe months. Better than dying in here. Is it? Dr. Tanaka touched her marked face. I can feel it, you know? The integration. My lungs work differently now. More efficiently. I can smell things I couldn't smell before. Pollen counts. Atmospheric nitrogen. The fierce sweat of everyone in this room. The microbes aren't killing us. They're changing us. And maybe, she looked at Harrow. Maybe that's what you wanted all along. Not carbon capture. Evolution. That's insane, someone else said. Multiple people were talking now, voices rising, panic spreading like the marks spreading across skin. I needed to make a decision. Right now. Because Dr. Tanaka was right, I was the coordinator. This was my job, taking care of people, making sure everyone got what they needed. Except there wasn't enough oxygen for everyone. There wasn't enough time to wait for rescue. There wasn't enough information to know if staying inside or going outside was more dangerous. And somewhere in Tucson, Luz was in an urgent care with a fever, and Ramon wasn't answering his phone, and I couldn't protect her from here. Couldn't protect anyone from here. My phone buzzed again. Emergency alert. Emergency alert. Aerial spraying initiated. Evacuate 20-mile radius. I showed it to the group. They're starting, Harrow said. We have maybe 20 minutes before the chemicals reach us. Masks, Dr. Tanaka said. Who gets them? Pilar, you have to decide. 15 faces looking at me. 8 showing marks. 7 still clear. All breathing air that was changing them. All waiting for me to choose who survived and who didn't. The unmarked ones, I said. The 7 people who haven't integrated yet. They get the masks. They're most vulnerable to chemical exposure. What? Devin's voice was raw from coughing. We're the ones struggling to breathe. We need. You're adapting, I said, the words tasting like ash. Your respiratory systems are already changing. The microbes might protect you from chemical attack. We don't know. But the people without marks? Their normal human lungs definitely won't survive sterilization spray. So they get the masks. It was the most brutal utilitarian calculus I'd ever made. Save the ones who weren't changing. Let the ones who were changing either adapt or die. Dr. Tanaka studied me for a long moment, then nodded. That's actually logical. Brutal, but logical. I'm one of the marked ones, someone said. Young woman, tech executive. You're saying you're leaving us to suffocate? I'm saying I'm giving you a chance, I said, not sure I believed it. If Harrow is right and the integration helps you process oxygen better, then you might survive the chemical attack. If he's wrong, then we die, Dr. Tanaka finished. But the unmarked die, for certain. I understand the math. She looked at the other marked guests. Anyone here studied probability theory? Because I'm calculating our survival odds at maybe 40% with adaptation versus near zero with normal lungs exposed to military sterilization compounds. Pilar's making the right call. That's easy for you to say, Devin shot back. His voice was clearer now, the coughing fit past. You're a scientist. You can rationalize anything. But I'm 25 years old. I came here for a climate retreat, not to be a fucking lab rat. We all signed the forms, someone else said. Older man, gray beard, one of the unmarked. I hate that Pilar's right, but she is. Give us the masks. Let the marked ones see if the adaptation works. You're actually doing this. You're actually triaging us. I'm doing my job, I said, and my voice only shook a little. Harrow, help me distribute the masks. 7 unmarked guests. 5 masks. We need to figure out rotation schedules, shared breathing, something. No rotation, Dr. Tanaka interrupted. She was breathing through her nose now, measured and controlled. The marked ones. We do circular breathing. Share our adapted respiratory capacity with the unmarked. Ancient meditation technique, but it might work if our lungs are actually processing oxygen more efficiently. That's insane, Harrow said. You'd be exhaling concentrated microbes directly into their mouths. They're already breathing the same air we are, Dr. Tanaka snapped. The dome is saturated. But if we can help them absorb oxygen better through direct transfer while they wear masks for chemical protection. She looked at me. It's not much, but it's something. My phone buzzed. Text finally coming through from Ramon. Doctor says Luz might have pneumonia. They're admitting her to St. Joseph's for observation. She's asking for you, but I told her you're out of state for work. Because you are. Again, I read it 3 times. Pneumonia. My 16-year-old daughter with military-grade immune system. Admitted to the hospital. Asking for me. And I was here. 40 miles into the desert. Sealed in a dome. with chemicals coming that might kill us all. Pilar. Harrow was watching me. We need you. The masks. Shut up, I said. Just shut up for 10 seconds. I pulled up my call log, dialed St. Joseph's Hospital main line. It rang and rang. Someone picked up. St. Joseph's. How can I direct your call? Pediatric floor. My daughter Luz Delgado Martinez was just admitted. I need to speak to her nurse. 1 moment, please. Hold music. 30 seconds. A minute. Outside, I could hear something new, the low droning sound over the storm. Helicopters. They were coming. Pediatric station. This is Nurse Gomez. My daughter Luz Delgado Martinez. I'm her mother. I need to know what's happening. Are you Pilar? Yes. Luz has been asking for you. Her father said you were traveling. What's her condition? A pause. Professional assessment of whether to share information. She presented with fever, respiratory distress, and unusual dermal markings. We're running tests now, but Dr. Wynn suspects an environmental pathogen. The phone almost slipped from my hand. Dermal markings. What kind of markings? Green discoloration in a vascular pattern, starting at her neck in... Does she go to Roosevelt Elementary? I interrupted. South Wing. I don't have that information in her chart. The school 12 miles from the Phoenix Biodome, I said. The school in the contamination radius. Is that her school? Another pause. Longer this time. Ms. Delgado, I'm not authorized to discuss theories about contamination sources. It's the same thing, I said. Whatever's happening to people here is happening to my daughter. The microbes are in the air. They're spreading outside the dome. How many others? How many kids in that hospital right now with green marks? I need to transfer you to our infectious disease coordinator. How many? 4 children admitted in the last 2 hours, Nurse Gomez said quietly. All from schools in the eastern Phoenix suburbs, all presenting with similar symptoms. Ms. Delgado, where are you right now? Inside the dome, I said. I'm inside the Phoenix Biodome. I'm looking at 8 adults with the same marks. We're in quarantine. They're about to spray us with sterilization chemicals. Silence on the line. Then, I need to report this to the CDC coordinator on site. Don't disconnect. Please don't disconnect. The call dropped. Signal gone. Emergency satellite only again. I looked up. Everyone was staring at me. Your daughter has it, Dr. Tanaka said softly. The microbes reached Tucson, 12 miles from here to Roosevelt Elementary, I said. My voice sounded strange, distant, like someone else was talking. Storm winds averaging 70 miles per hour. That's, 6 hours of sustained spread. The knot moths. They got outside before the dome sealed. Before we even knew there was a problem. They're in the wind. They're everywhere. Harrow's face was white. That's not possible. The airlock protocols. The pressure seals. Nothing should have. The dome was cracked before we sealed, I said. Those fractures in the glass. You said it yourself, we're not airtight anymore. And we weren't airtight before the storm hit. How long were those things flying around before you noticed them? Hours, he admitted. They generate spontaneously from the microbe colonies. I usually suppress them daily, but I was focused on storm preparations. So for hours before the guests arrived, your knot moths were flying in and out through air vents. Through the airlock every time someone opened it. Through the cracked panels. I felt very calm. Eerily calm. The kind of calm that comes when everything is already ruined and there's nothing left to lose. You didn't just contaminate 15 people. You contaminated the city. The droning sound outside was louder now. Multiple helicopters. Through the storm-darkened glass, I could see shapes moving. Lights. Aircraft hovering just beyond the swirling sand. We need to tell them, someone said. Call them back. Tell them people are sick in Phoenix. They'll have to stop the spraying. They won't, Dr. Tanaka said. They'll spray anyway. Try to contain what they can. That's outbreak protocol. You don't stop sterilization because vectors are already loose. You prevent further spread. So we're dead, Devin said flatly. We're just dead. And your daughter is dying in Tucson. And it's all because this fucking billionaire wanted to play God with microbes. Shut up, I said. Not loud. But everyone stopped talking. I was thinking about Luz. about her asking for me, about her breathing wrong air, her body changing, green marks spreading across skin that used to be mine, that I used to kiss every scraped knee and fever-hot forehead when she was small enough to need me. I was thinking about 4 other children in St. Joseph's, about Roosevelt Elementary, about how many schools were in a 12-mile radius, about how many children were breathing wrong air right now, because I'd coordinated this retreat, because I'd smiled and said yes when Harrow hired me, because I needed $12,000 and didn't ask enough questions. The masks go to the marked ones, I said. What? The gray-bearded man stepped forward. You just said. I was wrong, I said. Dr. Tanaka, you're adapted. You're breathing better than you were an hour ago, right? She nodded slowly, understanding where I was going. The unmarked 7 are going to adapt anyway, I said. The dome is saturated. You said it yourself. They're already breathing the microbes. In an hour, 2 hours, they'll have marks too. But the 8 who are marked right now, you're struggling. You're the ones actively transforming. You need oxygen support during the integration, or you might not survive it. That's a complete reversal of your previous logic, Dr. Tanaka said. But she was looking at me differently now. Why? Because my daughter is transforming in a hospital 12 miles from here, I said. And if the marked ones here die because I gave masks to people who don't need them yet, then I'll have killed the only test subjects who might tell doctors how to keep Luz alive. You 8 are the data. You're how we figure out what helps and what hurts. You're how we learn to save the children. The droning outside shifted pitch. Closer now. I could see the helicopters through the glass, dark shapes with belly-mounted tanks. Sprayers. Arrow, I said. Override the airlock. Open the dome. That'll let the chemicals in. That'll let us out, I said. We exit into the storm. The sand will give us some cover from the spray. Some of us might make it to the emergency vehicles. Get to the hospital. Tell them what we learned here. The quarantine order is already failed, I said. The microbes are loose. Luz has them. Other kids have them. Staying sealed in here just means we die without sharing what we know. Opening the dome means some of us might survive to help. Some, Devin repeated. How many is some? I looked at the cracked glass panels, at the helicopters positioning themselves, at 15 faces, 8 marked, 7 unmarked, all breathing wrong air, all changed or changing. I don't know, I said. Maybe none, maybe all, but staying here is death for certain. Going out, there's only probably death. I'm a coordinator. I choose the option with any survival probability over the option with none. She's right, Dr. Tanaka said. She was strapping on one of the oxygen masks, adjusting the flow. Arrow, open it. Now, before they start spraying. If I open the airlock during active sterilization, Harrow said slowly, it's murder. I'll be directly responsible for deaths. You're already responsible, I said. You built this. You released it. You knew the risks, and you took paying customers into an untested environment during a storm. This is your mess. The only choice you have now is whether you die in here with us or help us try to survive. He stared at me, then at his control screens, then at the helicopters outside. His hand moved to the manual override panel. If any of you survive, he said quietly, tell them I'm sorry. Tell them I was trying to save the world. You were trying to play God, Dr. Tanaka said. There's a difference. The airlock doors groaned. Heavy magnetic locks disengaging. Red warning lights flashing throughout the dome as the pressure seals broke. Outside, the first helicopter banked in a spraying position. Inside, I thought about Luz in a hospital bed, breathing through transforming lungs, asking for her mother, who'd chosen work over picking her up on time. Again, always again. And I made the choice I should have made 3 years ago when Ramon first started playing custody games. The choice I should have made when Harrow offered me $12,000 to coordinate a retreat for a billionaire's ego project. Everyone move, I said, toward the airlock. Marked ones in the middle with masks. Unmarked ones on the outside. When we exit, we run for the vehicles. We don't stop for anyone who falls. We don't look back. We get to the hospital. We tell them everything. We save the children. What about us? Someone asked. What about saving ourselves? I thought about that, about what I wanted to say, about what a good coordinator would say to keep morale up and prevent panic. But I was done being a good coordinator. I don't give a fuck about us, I said. We're adults. We signed forms. We made choices. But Luz didn't choose this. Those 4 kids at St. Joseph's didn't choose this. Every child breathing contaminated air right now didn't choose this. So we survive long enough to help them. Or we don't survive. Either way, we move. The airlock was fully open now. Storm wind shrieking into the dome. Sand blasting through in choking clouds. The temperature dropped 20 degrees in seconds. Above us, through the cracked glass panels, I saw the first helicopter release its payload. A gray mist falling through the storm. Chemical rain, coming down like the end of the world. Go, I said. Now, go. And we ran into the poison wind. The storm was a living thing. It grabbed us the moment we cleared the airlock. 15 people stumbling in a wind that hit like fists, sand that shredded exposed skin, visibility measured in inches. I'd taken off my jacket to wrap around my face, breathing through fabric that was instantly caked with desert grit. Next to me, Dr. Tanaka had her oxygen mask sealed tight, her marked face glowing faintly green in the weird half-light of the storm. The chemical spray was hitting the dome behind us. I could hear it spattering against the glass, a sound like rain, but wrong. Too thick, too oily. The smell cut through even the fabric over my face. Bleach and something else. Something that made my lungs spasm. Harrow was screaming over the wind. 200 yards northeast. Follow the guide cables. I couldn't see any guide cables. Couldn't see anything except the person in front of me. Devin, the investment kid, no longer coughing, breathing through his transformed lungs like the air was water and he'd learned to swim. The marks on his face were pulsing brighter, bioluminescent in the storm darkness. We were all glowing now, all 15 of us. The marked ones brightest, but even the unmarked had started showing faint traces. Green circuit patterns emerging like photographs developing. The microbes responding to the chemical threat by what? Accelerating integration? Protecting their hosts? Someone fell. Gray-bearded man, one of the unmarked. He went down hard, buried instantly in wind-blown sand. I grabbed for him, but Dr. Tanaka pulled me forward. "Don't stop," she shouted through her mask. "You said don't stop." I'd said that. Inside the dome. Well, I thought I could be that cold, that utilitarian, but this was different. This was watching someone disappear into the storm and choosing to keep walking. I pulled free from Dr. Tanaka and went back. Found him by the faint glow of his emerging marks. He was developing faster outside, like the storm itself was catalyzing the transformation. His face was covered in geometric green, his eyes wild with panic and oxygen deprivation. I pressed my mouth to his, circular breathing like Dr. Tanaka had suggested inside. Breathe out, felt him breathe in the air he expelled. It tasted green, tasted like living plants and chemical laboratories and something else, something that made my lungs burn and expand and burn again. His eyes focused. He grabbed my shoulders. Together we stood, rejoined the line of glowing figures struggling through the apocalypse. The chemical spray was everywhere now. I could feel it landing on my exposed skin, burning like cold fire. My jacket-wrapped face protected my nose and mouth, but my hands were exposed, my wrists the back of my neck. Wherever it touched, the microbes responded. The marks spread faster, racing across my skin like wildfire, like my body was a map, and something was drawing roads to everywhere at once. It didn't hurt. That was the worst part. It should have hurt. Chemical burns should hurt. But the microbes were adapting even as I walked, processing the toxins, integrating them, using them. My skin was changing and it felt like nothing. Like evolution in real time with no pain, no warning, just alteration as casual as breathing. There, someone ahead. Couldn't tell who. Everyone was glowing green silhouettes now, pointing at shapes in the storm. The emergency vehicles. 2 massive all-terrain things with chemically sealed cabins, built for exactly this scenario. Rescue in contaminated environments. We ran, or tried to. The wind was worse now, gusts that knocked people sideways, that lifted the smallest of us off our feet entirely. Devin went airborne for 3 seconds, came down hard, kept moving with his transformed lungs, pulling oxygen from air that shouldn't sustain life. The first vehicle's door opened, a figure in a hazmat suit gesturing frantically. We piled in, 10 people in a space meant for 6. Bodies pressed together, all of us glowing, all of us changed or changing, all of us breathing air that tasted wrong and felt right. There's 5 more. I screamed at the hazmat suited driver. 5 more people still outside. Can't wait. His voice was muffled through the suit. Chemical saturation at critical levels. If we stay exposed another 90 seconds, the engine seals fail and we're stranded. Through the small window, I could see them. 5 figures in the storm. Some moving, some not. Dr. Tanaka was out there. I'd seen her helping others, sharing her oxygen mask, doing the circular breathing technique with the unmarked who were struggling. 30 seconds, I said. Give them 30 seconds. 20, the driver said. 20, 19, 18. The figures were getting closer. 3 moving now. 2 being carried / dragged by the others. Dr. Tanaka's face was pressed against the window suddenly, her oxygen mask gone, given to someone else. Her marks covered everything now. Her entire face was a circuit board of green light. She looked beautiful, like an angel designed by engineers. Like the future wearing the skin of the past. The door opened. They fell inside. All 5. The driver slammed the door and gunned the engine, and we lurched forward into the storm, leaving the dome behind, leaving Harrow's paradise to the chemical rain. St. Joseph's Hospital. I gasped at the driver. We need to get to St. Joseph's Hospital in Phoenix. We have data. We know how the microbes work. There are children. I know about the children, the driver said. His voice was wrong, filtered through the hazmat suit, but also wrong in a way I couldn't identify. There are 43 children admitted now. 72 total cases across the Phoenix metropolitan area. The number doubles every 4 hours. Exponential spread, Dr. Tanaka said. She was breathing hard but evenly, her transformed lungs pulling oxygen from the vehicle's recycled air. The knot moths. They must have dispersed microbe colonies across miles of desert before the storm hit. Then the wind carried them further. Jesus Christ, Harrow didn't just contaminate Phoenix. He might have contaminated the entire Southwest. CDC is establishing quarantine zones, the driver said. Phoenix, Tucson, Yuma, possibly extending to Southern California, depending on wind pattern analysis. We're looking at the largest biological containment event in U.S. history. My daughter, I said. St. Joseph's pediatric floor. Is she? I don't have individual patient data, he said. I'm just transport, but I can get you to the hospital. That's where they're centralizing treatment and research. The vehicle hit something. We bounced hard. Through the window, I saw wreckage. The shuttle van that had tried to bring guests to the dome this morning. Flipped on its side, half buried in sand. One door torn completely off. Empty, the driver? I asked. Contaminated like you, the hazmat driver said. Evacuated to medical. He's one of the lucky ones. His exposure was early enough that we got him into an isolation unit before major integration. Before major integration, I repeated. You're saying what we have is major integration. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. I could see my hands. They glowed in the vehicle's dim interior. Delicate green patterns across my palms, my fingers disappearing under my sleeves where I knew they continued across my arms, my shoulders, my chest. Everywhere. How much of me is still human? I asked Dr. Tanaka. She looked at her own hands, at the marks that covered every visible inch of her skin. I don't know, she said. But I can breathe better than I ever could before. I can smell individual chemical compounds in the air. I can hear everyone's heartbeats. And I'm not tired despite running through a toxic storm. So either we're becoming something new, or the definition of human just expanded. That's a very optimistic interpretation, Devin said. He was curled in the corner, younger than everyone else, more scared. We're contaminated. We're vectors. They're going to lock us up and study us and never let us out. They're going to try to save the children, I said. That's what we're for now. Data points, test subjects, ways to figure out how to stop this before every child in the Southwest has green marks and transformed lungs. My phone buzzed. Somehow, miraculously, I had signal again. The vehicle must have stronger cellular boosters than the dome. Text from Nurse Gomez. Your daughter is asking for you. Dr. Wynn says you're contaminated too. Says you're on the priority interview list for treatment protocol development. Please come soon. She's scared. I type back with glowing fingers, 20 minutes. Tell her I'm coming. Tell her I have green marks too. Tell her we're going to figure this out together. 3 dots appeared. Then, she says she wants to know if the marks make her ugly. My chest felt like it was cracking open. Like something inside me that had been holding together through all of this. The dome, the storm, the chemical spray, the terrible choices, was finally breaking apart. Tell her, I typed slowly, that the marks make her beautiful. Tell her she glows like stars. Tell her she's my brave girl and we're going to be okay. I didn't know if that was true. Didn't know if any of us would be okay. But that's what mothers say. That's what I should have been saying for 3 years instead of letting custody schedules and Ramon's lawyer and my own pride keep me from being there when she needed me. The vehicle broke through the edge of the storm. Suddenly we could see clear air, normal daylight, the Phoenix skyline in the distance. And between us and the city, military checkpoints, rows of vehicles, soldiers in hazmat suits, medical tents set up in the desert, a containment perimeter. Everyone stays calm, the driver said. You're going to be processed. Blood draws, respiratory analysis, full medical workup. Then you'll be assigned to either the research ward or the civilian quarantine, depending on integration severity. Don't fight. Don't run. Cooperation is the only thing that keeps you alive right now. We pulled up to the first checkpoint. Soldiers surrounded the vehicle, weapons ready but not aimed. A doctor in a full hazmat suit approached the driver's window. How many? The doctor asked. 15, our driver said. All exposed. 8 with major integration, 7 with moderate. 1 has a family member in pediatric quarantine. She's priority for interview. The doctor's eyes found me through her face shield. You're Delgado? Yes. Your daughter's integration is progressing rapidly. She's asking for you. Dr. Wynn wants you in the research ward immediately. You're further along than she is. We need to understand the progression stages to develop intervention protocols. What kind of intervention? Dr. Tanaka asked. Reversal? Suppression? We don't know yet, the doctor said. That's what research means. We're 12 hours into an outbreak. We don't understand. We have 500 cases and counting. We need answers. We need to see the children, I said. All of us. With the advanced cases, we know what it feels like. We can tell you what helps, what hurts, what they're experiencing that they might not have words for. The doctor studied me, then nodded. You're right. Traditional triage protocols don't apply here. Everyone out. You're all going to research. They opened the vehicle doors. We stepped out into clear air that felt wrong now. Too thin, too empty. My lungs pulled at it uselessly, finding insufficient oxygen and atmosphere that should have been plenty. I was adapted now. Changed. My body expected the hyperoxic environment of the dome. This is what the children are feeling, Dr. Tanaka said quietly, gasping slightly. Normal air feels like suffocation now. We need supplemental oxygen, or we need to teach them to compensate with their transformed respiratory systems. Can you teach that? The doctor asked. I don't know, Dr. Tanaka said, but we're going to try. Because the alternative is watching them struggle to breathe in the air that used to sustain them. They led us through the checkpoint, through medical tents full of people with marks, through quarantine zones separated by plastic sheeting and armed guards, through the desperate infrastructure of containment built in hours because something got loose that should never have been made. And with every step, I thought about Luz, about seeing her face covered in marks like mine, about whether she'd be scared or brave or both. about whether I could be what she needed now, after 3 years of being absent when it mattered. St. Joseph's Hospital was transformed. The entire East Wing had been converted to quarantine. Every pediatric bed full. Every hallway lined with additional cots. Children everywhere, glowing green in the medical lighting, some crying, some silent, all breathing wrong. Nurse Gomez met us at the entrance. She was wearing a hazmat suit, but I recognized her voice. Ms. Delgado, room 317. She's been waiting. I walked through the hallways. Past 43 children becoming something new. Past parents being held back by quarantine protocols, not allowed to touch their own children for fear of accelerating contamination. Past doctors and nurses working in hazmat suits, trying to comfort kids they couldn't hug. Room 317. The door was open. Luz was sitting up in bed. Her face was covered in marks, beautiful geometric patterns that pulsed with her breathing. Her hair was pulled back. Her hospital gown was standard issue, but her eyes were the same. My daughter's eyes, scared and trying not to show it. "Mom," she said, and I realized this was the choice. The real choice that the dome had been building toward all along. I could stay outside the quarantine barrier, keep the medical separation, be the data point the doctors needed, let them study my advanced integration to help save her and the other children. Be useful, be rational, be the coordinator who made hard choices for the greater good. Or I could go inside, hold my daughter, let my higher microbe concentration accelerate her transformation, potentially make her worse, potentially kill her faster, but be her mother, be what she was asking for when she said my name. "Dr. One," I said to the physician standing by Luz's bed. "What happens if I go in there? If I have direct contact?" Dr. One looked exhausted, looked like someone who'd been making impossible choices for 12 hours straight. "We don't know," she said. "Your micro concentration is significantly higher. Direct contact could trigger accelerated integration, could help her adapt faster, could overwhelm her system entirely. We have no data." "Best guess," I said. "Best guess." Dr. One looked at Luz, then at me. "Best guess is she needs you. Not medically, psychologically. Because she's 16 and scared and transforming into something unknown, and fear makes integration harder. Stress hormones interfere with adaptation. The children who have family contact are stabilizing better than the ones in isolation. Even if family contact means more microbes. Even then," Dr. One said, "sometimes medicine isn't about the disease. Sometimes it's about whether the patient wants to keep fighting." I looked at Luz, and my daughter who I'd missed 3 months of weekends with, who I'd chosen work over again and again, because $12,000 in career advancement and proving to Ramon that I could be successful without him. I stepped through the barrier, crossed her bed, sat down on the edge. She threw her arms around me, pressed her marked face against my marked neck. Breathe in the air I breathed out, and I felt it, the microbes moving between us. My higher concentration flowing into her system. Her body's confused, frightened integration suddenly having a template. A guide, a pathway forward. "I'm scared," she whispered against my shoulder. "Me too," I said. "Am I going to die?" "I don't know. Are you?" "I don't know that either." She pulled back to look at me, at the marks covering my face, identical to hers but further advanced, glowing brighter. "We match," she said. "We do. Does it stop? Does the changing stop?" And here was where I should have lied. Should have said, "Yes, it stops. You'll be fine. Everything will be okay." That's what mothers do. They lie about monsters under the bed. They promise happy endings that might not come. But I was tired of lying. Tired of being the coordinator who smiled through problems. Tired of choosing work over truth and schedules over presence and professional success over the one person who actually mattered. "I don't think it stops," I said. "I think we're becoming something new. All of us. You, me, the other kids, everyone in this hospital. The microbes are changing us and we can't stop it, and we don't know what we'll be when it's finished. But Luz, baby, I need you to understand something." She was crying now, silent tears running down marked cheeks. "Whatever you become," I said, "you're my daughter. Always. The marks don't change that. The new lungs don't change that. Even if you end up breathing different air and seeing different colors and being something that isn't human anymore, you're mine. And I'm here, and I'm not leaving. Not for work, not for custody schedules, not for anything. Do you understand? She nodded against my shoulder. Outside the room, Dr. Wynn was taking notes, recording everything. The other 14 from the dome were being distributed to other pediatric rooms, other scared children, providing the template their transforming bodies needed. And I thought about Harrow, probably dead in the dome or the storm or the chemical spray. About his vision of saving the world through engineered paradise. About how every attempt to control nature ends the same way, with something getting loose that was never meant to be free. Ms. Delgado, Dr. Wynn's voice through the barrier. We're seeing stabilization across all pediatric cases with adult contact. The children are adapting faster when they have transformed adults nearby. We need you and the others from the dome to help with the severe cases. The ones who are struggling. The ones who might not make it without guidance. I looked at Luz. Can you be brave for a little while? Let me help the others. She nodded. Will you come back? Every hour, I said. I'll check on you every hour. And tonight, I'll sleep in here. On the floor if they won't let me in the bed. But I'll be here. I promise. I kissed her forehead. The marks pulsed where our skin touched. Then I left her room and went to find the children who were dying, who needed someone further along to show them how to breathe wrong air and live anyway. They gave me 12 children, the ones whose integration was failing, whose bodies were rejecting the transformation, rejecting normal atmosphere, rejecting everything, whose breathing came in wet gasps and whose marks flickered like dying lights. I spent 6 hours moving between their rooms, doing circular breathing, letting my higher microbe concentration template their struggling systems, watching their marks stabilize, watching them learn to pull oxygen from air that felt empty and wrong. 3 died anyway. 7-year-old named Mateo, 10-year-old named Keisha, 14-year-old named Amir. Their bodies just stopped. Integration incomplete. Original respiratory system failed, and the transformation wasn't far enough along to compensate. They suffocated in normal air while their parents watched through quarantine barriers, and I held their small hands and felt their marks go dark. I was holding Amir when he died, breathing into his mouth, trying to force the adaptation, trying to give him what my body had learned in the dome. But his lungs were too damaged from the initial exposure. The microbes had begun transformation they couldn't complete. His last words were, "Tell my mom I tried." I told her, through the barrier, watch her collapse. Watch the guards hold her back from the body of her child who'd gone to school that morning expecting a normal day and came home transformed and dying. That was 6 weeks ago. Now I live in the research ward. Room 442, East Wing, 3rd floor. Luz is 2 doors down in room 438. We have dinner together every night. Hospital food that tastes wrong because our transformed systems process nutrients differently now. We need more iron, more nitrogen. The dietary team is still figuring out what feeds bodies that are part human, part engineered microcolony. The marks never faded. Dr. Tanaka was wrong about that. Or maybe Harrow was lying about the 72-hour reversal. Either way, we glow. All of us. 537 cases in Phoenix, 412 in Tucson, 673 in Yuma. Scattered cases as far as San Diego and Albuquerque. Everyone who was in the initial exposure zone either transformed or died. No recovery, just adaptation or death. They're calling us the transformed. Capital T, like it's a species designation. Maybe it is. We breathe differently, process differently, see differently. I can count individual particles of dust in the air now. Can smell the chemical composition of people's fear sweat from across a room. Can hear the slight whistle in Luz's lungs that tells me her integration is still progressing, still changing her. We're not allowed to leave the hospital. Indefinite medical observation. That's the official term. The unofficial term is quarantine. They don't think we're dangerous, but they don't know what we are. What we'll become. Whether the transformation stops or continues forever, rewriting us one cell at a time until nothing human remains. Ramon tried to visit once. Week 2, they made him suit up in full hazmat gear, wouldn't let him pass the outer barrier. He looked at Luz through triple-layered plastic sheeting, and I watched him see something that wasn't his daughter anymore. Something that glowed. Something changed. He hasn't come back. Sends texts sometimes. Hope you're feeling better. Thinking of you. Generic messages that mean he doesn't know what to say to the thing his daughter became. Luz doesn't talk about it. Doesn't talk about him. Mostly she talks about her breathing exercises. Dr. Tanaka designed protocols for processing normal atmosphere with transformed lungs and the other kids on the ward. There are 23 pediatric cases here. 20 now, after Mateo and Keisha and Amir. They form a family of sorts. The transformed children. They have sleepovers in the common room, dragging their monitors in 4 poles. They compare marks like other kids compare bracelets. They've created a hierarchy based on integration percentage. Luz is 73%, which puts her in the middle. The kid who's furthest along is 91%. His name is Jordan. He's 8. He barely speaks anymore, just breathes in patterns that sound like music. Dr. Wen thinks he's transcending language, thinks the microbes are rewriting his neural pathways towards something that doesn't need words. She shows me brain scans. His language centers are dimming while other areas light up. Areas that don't have names yet, that didn't exist in human neurology before. Is he still human? I asked her last week. She was quiet for a long time. Then, define human. I don't have an answer for that. Used to think I did. Used to think human meant chromosomes and DNA and a specific arrangement of organs. Now I don't know. Jordan has human chromosomes, human DNA, but he breathes in geometric patterns and his skin processes light like photosynthesis. And yesterday, I watched him absorb nutrients directly through his hands when he touched the hydroponic system they installed for testing. Is he human? Is Luz? Am I? The CDC visits weekly. New teams each time, rotated through to prevent psychological attachment to subjects. They take samples, blood, tissue, breath analysis, map the progression, build models of what we're becoming. Last week they told me I'm 68% integrated, that my human cellular structures are being gradually replaced by hybrid forms, part organic, part microbe colony, part something they don't have terminology for. They estimate full integration within 6 to 8 months at current progression rate. What happens at full integration? I asked. The CDC researcher looked uncomfortable. We don't know. The furthest anyone's progressed is 91%. Jordan. And he's, well, you've seen him. I've seen him. Seen him breathing light. Seen the way plants grow faster in his presence. Seen him touch the window glass and leave marks that look like circuitry, like he's imprinting code on the world. He's beautiful. He's terrifying. He's what we're all becoming. Dr. Tanaka is 76%. She works with the research teams now, designing protocols from inside the transformation. She says she can feel the human parts of herself shutting down, remembers having emotional reactions to things that don't trigger anything anymore. She cried during the first week when patients died. Second week, she felt sad. Third week, she felt curious. Now she just observes, takes notes, analyzes. Am I losing empathy or gaining perspective? She asked me yesterday. Is this what evolution feels like from inside? Devin is only 43%. His integration stalled around week 3. Hasn't progressed since. He's alive but wrong. Body trapped between states, unable to fully adapt, unable to return to baseline human. He's in constant discomfort, not pain exactly, but wrongness, like wearing clothes that don't fit, except the clothes are his own cells. The doctors think his body rejected the transformation but couldn't fight it off. He's caught, permanently. He doesn't talk much anymore, just sits in his room, staring at his hands, at the marks that stopped spreading halfway up his forearms. Sometimes I hear him crying at night. Soft sounds through the walls. The sound of someone mourning themselves. I brought Luz to see the dome last week. They're allowing supervised external trips for research purposes now, studying how we react to different environments. We drove out in a medical transport van, just me, Luz, Dr. Tanaka, and 4 hazmat-suited researchers. The dome is still there. They never sterilized it successfully. The microbes proved too resilient. Instead, they sealed it, built a concrete barrier around the entire structure, buried it under 6 feet of sand and rock. Made a tomb, but we could still feel it. Standing on top of the burial mound, we could feel the life inside. The knot moths that never died. The plants growing in darkness, sustained by microcolonies that don't need light anymore. A whole ecosystem evolving in isolation. It's beautiful, Luz said, and I realized she was right. The wrongness I'd felt in the dome 6 weeks ago, that wasn't wrongness. That was newness. Change. The future arriving ahead of schedule. Do you think we'll end up like that? She asked. Buried? Contained? I don't know, baby. Would you mind? If we did. I thought about that. About spending the rest of my life, whatever life means for someone 68% transformed, sealed away from normal humans. Quarantined. Observed. Studied like zoo animals or plague rats. I mind not being with you, I said. Everything else I can adapt to. She took my hand. Our marks pulsed in synchronization. Whatever we were becoming it together. They found Harrow's body 3 weeks ago. In the dome, naturally. He'd never left. The security footage showed him staying behind when we evacuated, sealing himself in with his creation. The chemicals killed him within hours, but the microbes preserved him. His body is still there, under the sand and concrete, covered in marks that glow brighter than any living person's. 97% integrated. The transformation completed after death. Dr. Wen showed me the footage. Asked if I wanted to say anything. Make a statement for the record. I told her he wanted to save the world. He wanted to be remembered as the man who reversed climate change through engineered biology. Instead, he'll be remembered as the man who created a new species by accident. Close enough, I guess. They're building more facilities. Transformation centers in Arizona, California, New Mexico. Places for the transformed to live separately from baseline humans. They say it's for everyone's safety. Say we need specialized medical care. Special atmospheric conditions. Special everything. But we know what it is. Reservations. Internment. The future human remnant separating itself from the future that scares it. Luz asked me yesterday if we'd ever be able to leave. To walk normal streets. To go to normal schools. I told her I didn't know. Told her the truth, which is that I never lied to her anymore. Can't afford lies. Not when every day might be the day my language centers go dark like Jordan's. Not when every night I feel a little less human and a little more something else. She cried. Not about the confinement. About me. About watching me transform faster than she is. About knowing she'll lose me to the change before I lose her. What if you stop recognizing me, she asked. What if you become like Jordan and you don't remember you have a daughter? Then you'll remind me. I said, every day if you have to. You'll tell me your name and I'll try to hold on to it. And if I can't remember your name, I'll remember the marks. The way our patterns match. The way our breathing synchronizes. That's love too. Maybe that's better than love. Maybe that's what love becomes when language fails. She asked me if I was scared. I told her yes. Told her I'm terrified. That I lie awake counting my remaining human thoughts. Trying to hold on to memories of before. Of the person I was when I coordinated corporate retreats and fought custody battles and thought $12,000 was worth 3 days in a billionaire's paradise. That person is dying. Dies a little more each day. In 6 months, she'll be gone completely. In 6 months, there will be something else wearing my face. Something that breathes light and processes the world in ways human neurology can't sustain. And Luz will watch it happen. We'll watch her mother disappear into transformation. We'll have to decide if the thing that remains is still worth loving. That's the real choice. Not the one in the dome with the oxygen masks. Not deciding who got to breathe and who had to adapt. This one, the choice Luz faces every day. Keep loving me as I stop being me, or let me go now while enough remains to say goodbye. She chooses to stay, chooses to believe the thing I'm becoming will still recognize her, still want her safe, still be her mother in whatever form mother takes when humanity falls away. I don't know if she's right. Don't know if maternal love survives at 91% integration. Jordan's mother visits him, sits by his bed, talks to him. He doesn't respond, doesn't look at her, just breathes his light patterns and touches things, leaving code marks everywhere. But sometimes his breathing changes when she's there, shifts into a pattern that sounds almost like the lullaby she says she sang when he was a baby. And she tells herself that's recognition. That's love. That's somewhere in the 91% transformed, 8% of her son remains and remembers her voice. Maybe she's right. Maybe love is the last thing to transform. The final human trait to be rewritten by microbes that don't understand what mothers are, what children mean, what it costs to watch someone you made become something you can't comprehend. Or maybe love transforms first. Maybe it's already changed. Maybe what I feel for Luz now, this fierce protective drive to keep her breathing, keep her adapting, keep her becoming whatever she needs to become to survive. Maybe that's not human love anymore. Maybe that's post-human love. Better, worse, different. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore except Luz is in room 438. I am in room 442. Between us are 2 doors and 15 feet of hallway. Every night, I count that distance. Make sure I can still walk it. Still remember the path from my cage to hers. When I can't remember anymore. When my language centers go dark and my thoughts become light patterns and my love becomes something that doesn't have words. She'll still be 15 feet away. Still glowing. Still breathing. And maybe that will be enough. Maybe the thing I become will know. This glow matches mine. This breathing synchronizes with mine. This must be protected. Maybe maternal instinct survives transformation. Maybe it's written deeper than language, deeper than humanity. Maybe, or maybe in 6 months I'll look at her and see another light pattern, another breathing thing. Nothing special, nothing mine. That's what keeps me awake. Not the transformation, not the loss of humanity. The possibility that I'll lose not to death or distance, but to my own evolution. I'll be standing 15 feet from my daughter and not know her. That's the scar. The wound that doesn't close. The choice that never ends. Keep transforming and risk forgetting her, or stop trying to adapt and die while enough of me remains to say her name. I choose transformation. Choose survival. Choose becoming whatever the microbes are making me into. Because Luz needs a mother. Even a 91% transformed mother. Even a mother who breathes light and processes the world in geometric patterns. Even a mother who might not remember her name, but whose marks pulse in sync with hers. That has to be enough. It has to be. Dr. Wynn tells me I'm making excellent progress. That my integration is stable. That I'm a model case for adaptation protocols. What she means is, you're dying perfectly. Your humanity is being deleted with optimal efficiency. In 6 months, you'll be an ideal research specimen. Fully transformed, cognitively altered, everything we need to understand the process. I don't tell her that model cases still wake up screaming. Still count the distance to their daughter's room. Still bargain with biology that doesn't negotiate. Let me keep her name. Just her name. Let me remember Luz. The microbes don't answer. They just continue. Rewriting. Replacing. Improving. Making me into something better than human and worse than human and nothing like human at all. Luz visits me every morning. We have breakfast. Hospital food that tastes like chemicals and light. We talk about her breathing exercises. About the other kids. About anything except what's happening to me. What's happening to her. What's happening to all of us. After breakfast, she goes back to her room. I go to mine. We both pretend the 15 feet between us isn't becoming an infinite distance, isn't becoming the space between species, Isn't becoming the gap between what we were and what we're becoming, and whether becoming means losing each other forever. Tonight, I counted, like I do every night. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 15. Still remember numbers. Still remember counting. Still remember that 15 feet means something important. Tomorrow, I'll count again. We'll check if I still remember why. We'll check if the numbers still mean daughter, still mean lose, still mean the only thing I ever did right. And someday soon, 6 months, maybe less, I'll count to 15 and forget why I'm counting. I'll look at room 438 and see just another door. Just another light pattern behind glass. Nothing special, nothing mine. That day is coming. I feel it in every transformation, in every percentage point of integration, in every human thought that flickers and fails. Luz knows it too. I see it in how she looks at me, like she's memorizing my face before it stops being my face. Like she's holding on to the mother who remembers her name while that mother still exists. We don't talk about it. We just breathe together, count together, glow together, hold on to each other while we both become something else. And I think this is love. This counting, this breathing, this refusing to let go even as we're both becoming things that don't understand holding on. This is what survives transformation. Not the name, not the memory, not the humanity. Just this, the pattern, the distance. The 15 feet, I'll keep counting until I forget what counting means. Luz in 438, me in 442. Numbers I'll remember when I can't remember why numbers matter. That has to be enough. It has to be, because nothing else remains.